was something that sometimes gets mischaracterized as an optional, luxurious, nice to have, which is actually, according to people much smarter than us and much more informed, totally essential for individual well-being and societal progress, and that is making. So we think that the future belongs to makers. We think the act of imagining the future is in and of itself a creative act. And so we thought we might dive in on the maker mindset. And that is, I can construct. Hi! This is a total maker. This guy makes. Yeah.
This guy just overshadowed everybody else in the audience.
So the maker mindset says that I can construct and deconstruct and reconstruct the world around me. That I can solve problems, mine and societies through creation and iteration.
And when we're talking about making, it's a super broad definition. It's what Marianne has this kind of specific way she likes to make. So Marianne likes to hide away. She likes to be unobserved. She likes to have freedom to make a mess. She likes to be like very flexible with what an object can be and what an object can be used for. And she likes to make things that are good, things that are shared, and some things that are permanent, and maybe in a sequel, some things that are impermanent.
Yeah. Everything we're going to share tonight comes from great sources. So there's something at the Department of Defense called Creative Services, which is a way to treat PTSD through mask making. There's something from Save the Children that we've been hugely impressed with called the HEART program, Healing and Education through the Arts. And then through my podcast and the PBS show, I've gotten to talk to Francis Collins, the great former director of the NIH, about music and well-being. Denise Pope of Challenge Success, Alice Walton, Crystal Bridges, and then our former Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy.
And our biggest influence by far is this book called Your Brain on Art by Susan Maximin and
Have you read it? Has anyone read it?
You should. I will say, as someone who's Gen Z, kind of famous for not having an attention span, I was rapt. I read the whole thing in one sitting. And so Susan is a neuroscientist at Johns Hopkins, and Ivy runs a design group at Google, and they came together to write this book that focuses on all the different ways that your brain can benefit from engaging in the creative arts.
And one of the most striking things that we heard from Susan and Ivy is they speak to school superintendents like by batches of 500. And they're really trying to get this back into the school curriculum. All the arts, which used to be baked into our day. I had chorus as part of my school. I'd play an instrument. I did shop class. I did home ec, where we were sewing and cooking. And it was, when you put it in the school day, what you're saying is like an educated person should be able to do this range of things. And then it became something that was like a blue collar thing versus a white collar thing. So it's a huge loss for all of us. But anyway, what Susan and Ivy say to the superintendents is, quote, denying kids something they need to be healthy is a form of abuse and neglect. The biology is that clear. And when we frame neuroaesthetics as baseline, not luxury, table stakes, not extracurriculars, legislation will follow. Legislation that takes us backwards to a time when home ec, shop class, choir, and orchestra were built into the daily lives of children. Okay, so we have a 6-part case for making. And now we can get over there to Jenny. I'll take the first one, which is make for the neurochemical bubble bath, which is to say free, non-toxic access to serotonin and dopamine and norepinephrine. It's when you're making, you're getting like a bolus from your internal pharmacy. Making also often involves monotasking, which is so rare, and monotasking lowers cortisol. And this is what the DoD has discovered in their Creative Forces programs, that when they take the measurements of the people going through the program, the times when they feel the most relaxed and their shoulders drop is when they're in a creative experience.
So the second point is to make for the myelination. So I don't know if you guys remember the last time you were in AP Bio, but all of our brain cells are these neurons that have this long portion called the axon, and it's surrounded with a layer of insulation, just like any other thing that conducts electricity, and it's called your myelin sheath. And they've actually found...
You didn't think we were going to talk about myelin sheath?
Yeah, no, and that's what the actual kids book is about.
Surprise!
but your myelin sheath is this insulation which helps your neurons fire faster and helps decrease the space between synapses. And they've actually found that people who are engaging in the creative acts on a regular basis have thicker myelin sheaths. And that's the science portion of things.
Make for the flourishing. So manual work forces a reckoning with the physical world. Like chefs have to deal with like the spine of kale, or guitar players have to deal with the calluses on their fingertips, or when I have sewn things, you have to like understand the nap of the fabric. Or we're building a house now, and all these woodworkers are bringing the wood to the site so that they can let it shrink and swell with the weather and like adjust. But being in contact with the physical world makes us curious about how things are made, and it's proof that we can understand the world around us and the things that we're dependent on. And feeling like you have some understanding of the things that have power over you or around you is very relaxing. It's an anxiety reducer.
Make for society, and make and support those who make for society. So students with access to arts education are 5 times less likely to drop out of school. They are 4 times more likely to be recognized for high achievement. They score higher on SAT skills and proficiency tests in literacy, writing, and English skills. They're less likely to receive disciplinary infractions. And speaking of societal progress, when the arts are equitable, they find that the disparity between high-income students and low-income students shrinks. And so I'm guessing most people here are not still in high school, but when we're thinking about where we're putting our money, votes, helping support systems that support making in the arts.
There's also a ton of community available in making. So there's a lot of live face-to-face synchronicity, working and singing and dancing in groups. It trips the wire for awe and wonder. So karaoke and cootie catchers, skits. And Denise Pope, who's so interesting, she educates educators, and she has this thing called Challenge Success, and she's trying to ask people in high-income zip codes to reconsider what success looks like for your children. And one of her big, so that it's not just pointed towards where you go to college. And one of her big ideas is making time for PDF, which is playtime, downtime, and family time.
And lastly, make for the EQ, for your emotional intelligence. The arts are one of the most effective empathy building tools that we have. How else would we transport to a new world? By reading a book, or like I'm being moved by art. And there's no other way to inhabit the life of the other, and it really helps draw us all closer.
Okay, so very quickly, what counts when we're talking about making, just in case you were thinking like I don't really like to paint? It's coding, building, mosaics, knitting, sewing, writing, performing, carpentry, robotics, drawing, doodling, cooking, baking. Gardening is like off the charts. And when you look at the physiological benefits, it's number one. It's like the delivery of the physiological benefits is so immediate. Music and skits.
But even more than those hobbies where you're like, oh, these people came and they told me I got to go like make an hour to go garden every day. And like you all see, this seems like a busy, productive crowd. And I think that one of the things that Susan and Ivy really focus on are what they call small C creative acts, which are ways to turn things that we view as chores into creativity by means of intentionality. And so they talk about reducing that friction. So thinking about like when you're making your bed, instead of viewing it as something you have to do every day, viewing it as a creative act. And when you're putting away things, making a meal or putting things on a plate, just having intentionality in those moments to really try to, obviously, to have intentionality at all times is deeply exhausting, but to find times throughout the day to really lock into being intentional in these small C creative things.
And I think I think that monotasking helps. Like if you have that note in your mind that you could turn a chore into small C creativity, and then you have the idea of monotasking, like I'm just going to clean these dishes right now, and then you could sort of trigger some kind of sensory appreciation for the smell of the dish soap and what the warm water feels like on your hands. Like it can turn into a little bit of a moment. The final thing that we want to say before we pass it to Jenny is, or just open it up for conversation, is my favorite thing that we learned from Susan and Ivy, which is that the same like physiological package of goodies is available via beholding. So, and beholding is a very specific, focused act, and it's ever available to you. We could all be beholding now. You could pick anything in this room to get off on, somebody's jacket, but the trick of beholding is to sort of bring your senses to bear. So it's like really noticing like the stitching on the edge of your jacket, or the placement of the buttons, or how there's a button here, how the sleeve's kind of larger, and this kind of matches your collar, and your hair color and your jacket kind of go together, but really like falling all the way into the act of noticing. So our favorite example is that Claire and I were driving around doing all these readings when the book first came out in June, and we were listening to this song by the band Cake. Do you know Cake? Mm-hmm. And we were really beholding. We were like, listen to the vibraphone, listen to how he changes the words on the third verse, listen to the bridge. It's so interesting, it's so different, and this is why he's so great. And the exact lyrics and the alliteration and the internal rhyme. I mean, really, really applying ourselves, our full intellect, to the appreciation of this object, this song. And Claire was like, oh my God, we're doing it, we're beholding it. And I was like, I know, and I feel it. Like I feel kind of like teeth grindy and high when I'm beholding. So the indication that you're doing it right is that you'll feel a little high. And it's not toxic, so knock yourself out. Okay, so Jenny.
I love all that. I mean, it's so, I think obviously, I was thinking when you were going through that list, how few of those things to make are things that I'm able to do. Like I can draw like a penguin. I can only bake a slice and bake cookie. I am not a maker except for obviously writing. And so much of writing is beholding. And so I think it's just, I think like the idea of, you know, and I have a 3-year-old, so I'm constantly thinking about how much I multitask, and B, how much I don't want him to grow up in this multitasking brain situation that we've all kind of found ourselves in. And so I think focusing on crafts and how you do something, and these are, you know, I was saying to Kelly, this was before this, that this is the first picture book event that I've done in a while where there are no kids. I'm used to talking about this book and these books with like 5 and 6 and 7 year olds. So it's a different audience. I won't do all the silly voices for you guys, but I think that like
what did we just say, Jenny? What did we just say? We weren't even listening.
But I think that so much of writing and being a writer is about beholding, and I feel very fortunate that of the things I can make, it's, you know, books. And the reason that I'm here with these guys is I've known Kelly for a really long time because I used to work in publishing and I've been writing for a very long time. I've written, you know, adult books and YA books, and to get to do picture books where you are thinking so much about little kids and little brains and little humans is like a real gift. Like of all, I've been publishing for like almost 20 years, different books, and I have not found as much joy by miles in anything I've done. I've had books made into movies. I've written for teens. I've like been on tour in countries all over the world. Like nothing has brought me as just much joy as writing these picture books and getting to talk to little people about them. Mine are not, you know, I don't have as much of a scientific story behind mine, but the Creature of Habit is, it came about, you know, I've written 2 picture books for little kids, and I have a 3rd one coming out soon. And I just got the first copy. This comes out in early November. I brought it here. It's called The Cure for the Hiccups. And I had it in my house because I've been reading it to my son. And a friend was over, and she kind of gave it a quick leaf through. And it's a spoiler alert, but the cure for hiccups is patience. And and it is about like sitting and being still. And my friend was like, "Wow, is every picture book you write like sort of like a soothing message to yourself?" And I was like, yes, it actually is. And so, you know, Creature of Habit is it's about dealing with change. It's about a creature who lives on the island of habit and does the same thing every day at the same time. And then one day another little creature kind of sails up and knocks his whole world off balance. And another spoiler alert, I'm a creature of habit. There's a sequel called The Creature of Habit Tries His Best, which is very much about how anything you try that's new is at first not fun and uncomfortable and you want to stop. And, and then this one's about patience. And I think, the inspirations for all three of them have been different, but they all do have like a sort of similar theme, which is that you do kind of have to sit and be with yourself and be okay with yourself and learn things the hard way sometimes to get through those things. So I think these are really fun to write. I am so happy to be here. I've known Kelly for 20 years. We just figured out about, and I'm so happy to meet Claire because I've been hearing stories about her since she was a little kid.
Jenny edited my second book, which is called Glitter and Glue.
Yes,
So
which is wonderful.
Claire just said, "I can't believe you let her get away with the line."
There's no helmet hard enough to protect her from her own recklessness. Is what my mother wrote about me and then published.
And
in
then
a
I
book.
apparently have it on recall, just ready.
Oh.
Just ready for therapy.
Well, we've already done therapy, Jenny.
Sometimes you need a little effort.
But no, it's really fun to be up here and talk to you guys about.
I was thinking about you and noticing and like the beholding idea and
Yeah.
that writing really begins and ends with beholding. Like
Yeah.
it is like an observational art.
Yeah.
But today, our cousin was in town and I walked around with a 3-year-old. We just walked one block and we just noticed.
You notice a lot.
We noticed like almost an hour. And when you're doing it, all sorts of things appear. I mean, there were 100 things to touch, smell, like break off, see if the flower would like rub a color onto your hand, try to eat it,
Jump off something called.
yeah. But it is so incredibly antithetical to the pace at which we live our lives. And the slowdown, like the transition into that zone, it's really hard to make. It's really like there was a minute where I was like not making it comfortably and like kind of my phone was like kind of burning a hole in my pocket. And
or you have nothing to do and you're sort of like hurrying a little person along and then realizing like why you're just used to moving at such a fast pace that it's hard to kind of slow that pace. And writing again is the only form of making that I'm really any good at or have the patience for, but it is like one of the only times where my brain has to be forced to do something. And even then it's like I have to use all the bells and whistles to block the internet on my computer because otherwise I do because otherwise I use all the tricks. I have like a timer that I have to use it, but it's hard. Our brains are just hardwired now to be everywhere, and it's I think between being a writer and wanting to as much as possible like hang on to my brain because that's what it is all about, and then having a kid, it feels really important, as you guys were talking about the actual science behind it all, to find ways to exercise that like anything else you would exercise and practice.
And I feel like, I mean, I don't have any children, but I babysit 3 boys and they're 5, 4, and 2. So it's like there's so much going on. But I feel like one of the things, so I lived with this family for the summer and was babysitting on the weekends, and they have this chart up, and on the chart it has like TV days and dessert days. So it's like Monday, nothing day. Tuesday, dessert day. We're good, And I was like, I was talking with the parents. I was like, I've been trying to follow it. And they're like, it never once occurred to us that like this is something we follow, like we would ever follow. But I feel like when you're taking care of something else, you realize like most of the time the same things are good for both of you. And so it's been like one of my favorite things to do babysitting is Whisper Art Hour, which is like you're not allowed to talk about a whisper. I won't respond to you if you do. And like we're like just doing art, and I'm a terrible artist, but it is like so nice that I get those moments where like I'm getting the benefits of getting to like do something creative. And
what's like your version of making that's the like one that you like best? Both of you. Well, I would like to say writing probably.
Claire cuts her own hair. She colors it. Like there's, I don't know. What are your faves? You're a writer.
I do stand-up comedy, which is a fun form of making because you also get attention.
Depends on your definition of fun.
So, and I write a lot as well, but I'll do like I love doing things that I'm bad at. I think that it's like good for me. Yeah, I don't know.
Like
I
your
kinda
noses.
remember- Yeah, during finals, me and my friend would get stressed, and we would buy like modeling clay, and I make like noses out of clay.
So when we went to clean out
toes.
her college dorm room, there were like these noses on her desk. I was like,
That didn't make the list of
All
making
freaky.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like one of our friends reached out to us, and he had like listened to the podcast we did with Susan and Ivy, and he said he was like, I totally resonated with me. My making is tying flies for like fly fishing. And like our other friend was like, it's barbecuing. Like I really care about the barbecue, and I'm so locked in and monotasking. So I think that like the important part is monotasking.
Yeah.
And like being intentional more than like being good or feeling like you have to fit into this. Like, oh,
I
now
think
we're
it's
knitting.
kind of interesting I think it's interesting to have things that you do for work or pay or to share to make permanent, and then to have a set of activities that you do that you just paint right over the next day. So I paint all the time, many times a week. I paint on the same thing, so things just disappear on me, and I try again the next day. I don't have any aspirations around it. It's only just to see if I can figure it out. It's like I equate it to somebody trying to like hit a little ball into a cup, which I believe they call golf. Like it's just nonsense. It's a total nonsense thing to do with your time, as is mine. Or puzzle. I realized that I was allowed to spend time this way, and that it was because I felt like it was so supportive of my actual job. And I hate to say that. I hate to make it like a tool like that, but there's no question that on a day that I've painted or puzzled, like I often have a 1,000-piece puzzle going, I'm a little calmer. I can stick with a thought longer. I can let things percolate. Like I almost have like imagination stations. Like I'm my own Montessori kid, and so I'll be over here working on a draft, and then I'll peter out or I'll finish a little section, and then I'll go over to another section of our kitchen, and I'll paint or I'll puzzle. And I feel like they're complementing each other in a way. So I think it's especially wonderful to find ways to be creative that have no outcome or and there's no evaluation. The thing that Claire said about Marianne liking to be unobserved is like that desire to just disappear into your work and try to connect to the flow state. It does not bring in like the ideas of an audience, which I think is really cool. I think there can be a lot of discovery there because you're freer.
Yeah, it's like, again, this, no one has read this yet, but there's a whole sequence in this book of like, it's a little girl with hiccups, and she tries, like drinking water upside down and doing cartwheels and eating lemons and everything, and her grandmother keeps being like, you just sit, and then there's finally like the moment where she's just still, and that's what it is like, stillness is when things change, and when you can slow down and like hear your heart and hear your breath and hear something. So I think at any age it's a good lesson.
Yeah, it's like a reveal. That's the reveal. It's creating the conditions for the reveal or the discovery. The other thing I would say is that, and this is so clear in the research, is that when you're having trouble dropping into some sort of creative project, there were two pieces of advice. One was to find a sensory cathedral, quote unquote, which is nature, number one, but there are other places. I mean, in fact, I grew up Catholic, and I'll tell you that they're brilliant at creating a sensory experience inside. Vaulted ceiling, lowered lights, the smell of incense, organ music, chanting together, like all of that is driving your vagus nerve, and which creates calmness, which creates openness, which creates potential. And then when I first tuned into this research, I feel like you can also kind of create a sensory cathedral. Like everybody has a scented candle in their house at this point. Even Claire has a scented candle. She has no money. And you can lower your own lighting, and we had like craft night last night in Claire's apartment, and there were 4 of us painting, and we turned on music, and the come down is not that hard to trigger. It's not that hard to make 5 moves and like totally change your environment and your space and make it way more conducive for the great myelination, which was the other name for the book.
The 5-year-old set probably wouldn't have quite.
You don't know. You never know. Look
You
at
never
Dr. Seuss had him hooked
You
on.
can try it for a sequel.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about what you're making? Yeah.
I'm just really curious because I went to a group of 50th birthday parties, with people turning 50. There were a lot of them doing acid. I'll say that.
Good.
But
Good to
this
establish that.
But I wanted to point this out because it did put people into this other into that sensory space. I think we were at a resort, and so people were touching the ferns, and admiring the hyacinths, and you know, and I thought in another setting, somebody.
This is the first time we've had this question, so I'm really
And actually, in another setting, it reminded me of something. You know, it is quite a simple pleasure to stroke a fern and see how soft it is, and watch its tiny little curls unfold. And those are really small little things. And I had this as I was, you know, I was not tripping, but I was.
Sure you weren't.
People were laughing. I wish I could, but anyway, they were like, "Oh God, you must have been you're extra on this one." But I was like, "No, I'm really not." But I had this memory of being in high school and being enraptured by nature, and I remember someone downright smacking that out of me and saying, "Simple pleasures for simple minds."
Ouch.
Oh.
And I wanted to bring that up because I thought I really didn't realize how much that had impacted me about that ability to simply absorb and to do it without the fear of judgment, as you said, in that
Yes.
cave, the cocoon of safety, without being watched while you're
Yes.
making or you know, vibing in whatever your creative zone is at that moment. And so it made me think about how in these two different moments that this teenage self-judging the simplicity of it, and then these adults who had refound this childlike joy
Yeah.
in this moment, and those two things collided together and made me really think a lot about what you're talking about and the sort of neuroplasticity that you can kind of experience when you are putting yourself into these new experiences.
Yeah. I think that parents who say wow have kids who say wow. I think if you're like walking around the world and you say, like, look at that, is that cool? Look at that. Look at those little things over the windows. They're so cool. Look how that one's tan and that one's blue. I mean, there's just always something to notice. There's always something to admire or be curious about. And you can absolutely model the hell out of it.
I also think, just like speaking from my own high school experience, that I was like very booked. Like there's not a lot of space for like, you know, I'm just gonna go wander around the park and like that's gonna be my day, because it was, you know, and there was like realistically there was space for that, but I was like, well, I can't because I gotta study because I have to take 6 APs. I dropped out of drama because I needed to take another science class. For who? I work in the entertainment industry now. But I think that there is this, like, when you're in this space where like you kind of are being like, you're getting a grade every week, multiple times a week, you're like getting feedback back on your work. And I feel like it is a space where you're like, there's so much judgment and so much figuring out who you want to be, and like you don't even have a full brain yet. Chill out. And so I think that like really I wish I had made more space for myself when I was in high school to be like, I'm just gonna
unobserved.
partake in a hobby and not need to be watched, and you know, I think
evaluated.
Yeah.
You're just not. You're trying out for the team. You're wearing clothes, and your girlfriends are looking at you. You got a new haircut. You're taking a quiz. You're writing your college essay. I mean, it's constant evaluation. Good, bad. Okay, very good. Oh, starter, not starter, of the team. I mean, it's like, think about that. We did not go through that as adults.
So I graduated from high school last year.
Yeah.
And that was, throughout high school, I craved the idea of making, because I'm a very creative person. I crave the idea of making. And so, like, freshman year, I started, like, a slime business when that was, like, a thing.
Yeah.
And,
Nice. How did you?
Terrible. All these different things, but yeah, and I also found, and that led to where I am today, which is podcasting. I found a way to combine my internet addiction and like
Yeah.
creating, and so and I still do this to this day. It's kind of embarrassing. I have been making fan edits for 4 years.
What's a fan edit?
It's like making shortcut videos.
I'll send you some. I'll send you some good ones. This
Yeah,
is
send-
pretty
But I
big
think
ones.
we all want to know.
Yeah.
It's like it's a very Gen Z term, you guys. It makes sense that some of you would know what it is. It's basically shortcut videos that are made with different effects and different sounds that are very appealing and you can quickly process them to like the it's good for TikTok, like people can quickly but to make them is actually a very long process, and it's very creative, and it takes like I'm a big like Gilmore Girls fan, so I make like a lot of like Gilmore Girls themed edits that are like full of different clips from different characters and with different stuff. It's kind of hard to
It's
explain.
almost
She'll send
like
you some.
it's almost like a sizzle reel that
Yes.
is like specific to a TV show or a movie
or like an
or an
artist
actor.
or
Okay, wait. So I have to, since you're a Gilmore Girls fan, I have to say that Jenny, when she was an editor, she edited me, but she also edited Lauren Graham.
That's actually how I found out about this event.
Lauren narrated my audiobook.
Yeah, and I
She-
that's actually
she
how I found out.
listened.
But I'm a huge Lauren fan. She's probably my dream guest for my podcast.
Oh, so we can put that together.
Yeah, no, I'm actually. Do you guys know about FanFest? You gotta go to FanFest. It's for Gilmore Girls fans in Connecticut every year,
Oh,
and actors from the show are there this year. Kelly Bishop's
And
gonna
they
be there.
take acid, and it's amazing. It's with the ferns.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Anyways, yeah, huge fan.
This is an awesome experience. I mean, making is something that every human should have, young or older. And I know any private school around here is going to have a fantastic makerspace and an art teacher and probably a drama teacher and a separate music teacher. But go to South LA and it's not there. Or if it's there, the art class is draw this line this way and then draw this line that way. And there's this risk of the benefits of this being a luxury good. And the question is, what are your ideas on how to spread that as far as possible?
Okay, so I'm so glad that you asked this because you are sitting next to someone who is the best.
Actually,
They know
I'm
each
the
other.
executive director.
Oh, did you just set this up?
Yeah.
Okay, so Aaron, will you stand up and introduce yourself and tell them about what you do?
I can sit down here too. I'm Aaron Kramer. I live in San Monica Canyon. Dad of 2 daughters. My wife is sitting over there.
Oh, hi.
I'm on the board of the Rediscover Center. Jonathan's our executive director. We put real tools in the hands of kids, and we make epic stuff out of recycled materials. And we've been doing that for 20 years. And we have 2 full-time locations now, but we're in schools, after schools. We do all kinds of programming, weekend events.
40 schools, right?
70.
70 schools.
40 LAUSD.
We're in 40, and then another 30 come to us for field trips.
So we've been in the business of making for years. I grew up with Thursday night being my favorite night because that was when people put the trash out on the streets, and I was constantly collecting and taking things apart and building go-karts and all kinds of things. So I've kind of recreated my youth in our organization with kids, and I started a tinkering school with Jonathan. We started our summer school program back in 2011. And
So if people want to go to a
600 kids.
website
Yes.
to learn more, what's the website?
Rediscovercenter.org.
Rediscovercenter.org, and they can donate through that.
Oh yeah, so we take materials all the time. We've got a fundraiser that Patagonia is sponsoring on November 13th. And then we take those resources and we'll work with the schools up on Mulholland Drive and take their fees. And we'll work down in South LA and get as many materials and really creative, free experiences, just open experiences into the hands of kids that are in schools where that doesn't exist otherwise.
So cool.
Yeah.
We used to go to the creative reuse in Oakland,
Mhm.
and it's just you just turn the corner and there's like a barrel of buttons. It's like 45,000 buttons.
Yeah.
I just wanted to chime in. So I have 3 kids. They're now 5, 9, and 11. And so we've been there a few times when you guys do like the one-off days. And it's awesome. And it's so much fun. And the fact that they get to use the glue gun and I'm not in charge of it. They get the hammer. And so I just want to, if anybody has young-ish kids, go there. It's awesome. So
That's so cool. That's so cool.
But I was serious. Like, we're always looking for new ideas for how do you get a superintendent to listen to you? how do you get a parent who thinks I need my kids to pass these tests in order to get to the next thing, to give their kids enough time to get into this flow stage to make something?
Well, Clara is local now, so you have a campaigner on your side.
Yeah.
She'll take the message anywhere you want.
I think the big thing that Susan and Ivy come to in their book, Your Brain on Art, which would be the first book I would recommend to such superintendents and parents, is that you really do see that when you are investing in the, not that this is a reason to do it, but when you are like investing in making time for the arts, that you are performing better on tests and you are more creative. And I think that that's a big thing. But then I also really believe that like when you're applying to colleges, there, for like me at least, there was this pressure of like, oh, you have to take all these science classes and whatnot. And I think that that's less and less the case. And I think that the more important thing is like having passion, and that when you have a kid who's applying who's like, yeah, I guess I'll apply into the engineering school because I read somewhere that if you apply into the engineering school, you have a better chance of getting in the school, versus a kid who's like, I'm obsessed with this one thing I've been working on for 4 years, and really have that like depth in something they're passionate about. Like fundamentally that will be a better applicant, which again, like I can't believe I'm like, this is how you get into college. But
Right.
I think that I don't think that it's this zero-sum game the way that like we've been taught to believe it is, but I also know it's like so much easier said than done.
Will you talk about therapy and the thing that she told you that was so good?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that my therapist just told me.
Because that's like another angle.
Yeah.
Is like, look, there's a mental health crisis, and there's a lot of people who are walking around anxious every day. And so you want to know why the test scores aren't great? You want to know why it's hard to read? And, you know, like this is a solution to many, many problems like converge in this space.
Yeah, so.
It is Tylenol, though. It's Tylenol.
Yeah.
So tell the people.
Sorry. But we're being recorded here.
I got it right. We're gonna get audited.
Yeah. But just randomly. It was just randomly you got picked. But one of the things my therapist told me is the opposite of an anxious mind is a noticing brain, because it really grounds you in reality. And I think that like I think it's great that people have so much access to talk therapy and it's becoming destigmatized. But I think that sometimes it's being viewed as a one-off solution, and I think that it's not necessarily always the best, or not in and of itself is not always the best solution. And I think like real mental health help does involve a whole array of things, and like lowering cortisol requires like if you make like that helps lower your cortisol. And I think that there's just like my therapist would give me like homework and be like, yeah, you need to go for a walk, and like you should go for a walk and think about your problems. And I'm like my gym coach could have told you that, just like walk it off, you know. But it really does help, and I think that that's
there was this great story I read in Lost Connections by Johan Hari, which is a really great book if you haven't read it. And it's about the rise in depression and these 9 ways that we used to be connected to the earth and one another and ourselves, our bodies, etc., that we are no longer. And there was a therapist there in London who said, every minute you spend with me in the chair, you have to spend in our community garden. It's on the back side of the building, so you come up to see me, and then you go down the back stairs, and you work in the garden for 1 hour. And, you know, sure enough, people meet each other in the garden. People are seeing progress in the garden. They give away all the food to people who need the food. So they're like being the givers instead of the takers, like the shift in their identity. I mean, I was like, oh my God, that is the answer. Is like minutes where your nervous system is calm per day. Like just however you can get a calm nervous system, get it. And it might not be the top 3 answers that everybody's giving us.
It would seem that any break from technology would allow these things. And I'm looking at the creature of habit and the maker. I feel like technology is such a habit that we have allowed ourselves to fall into. And how do you break the habit of technology?
Well, let me say, my editor and producer, this woman Tammy Stedman, who went to American Film Institute and won an Oscar with her first film, and is now my podcast producer. So, so good that helped. Anyway, she loves editing, and she does it all with technology. It's all screen based. She puts on these huge headphones and she's inside the file, and it's like a little surgery for her. And she's like, that is the calmest making experience. So there's tons of ways that technology allows people to find flow, but social media is not going to help it. Although I must say, I watch a lot of reels of people painting.
Yes.
And I just does something good for me. But I know what you're saying.
I do think that there's a shift, at least in my generation, where like more and more of my friends are like, I don't want to bring my phone. I was just talking with one of my coworkers who's about my age, who was just celebrating Rosh Hashanah in the New Year, and she was like, she's like, I just love when there's a Jewish holiday because I just can't bring my phone with me. That's like, you can't reach me for 2 days. And I think that there's this expectation of like always expecting people to be reachable, of like, I texted you 2 days ago, why haven't you texted me back? And there's an expectation of always like needing to respond quickly and needing like
and like the post and say, oh my God, I'm so high. Whatever.
And like this feeling that like I feel like people expect so much access to me, and I've become a big proponent of like everyone I need to contact is with me right now. Like there's no reason why I would need to have a phone. Like yeah.
And I think when you're talking about, you know, kids especially and kids books, like obviously not to be the person who's an author in a bookstore talking about how reading is good, but reading is really good. And I recently was visiting my sister, and she was trying, you know, she has boys who are 8 and 10 who like are, you know, she's really fostered reading, but they're just, some kids just love to read, and some you have to kind of work it in. And she tears through so many books a week, and I noticed when I was there, she was reading on her Kindle app on her phone. I was like, they are only seeing you on your phone. Like they don't know you're reading a book, and if that's any different. And like the visible act of like, there are studies that just like kids with books in their house, like are like become better readers just from like the physical, like having the books in their house. And so modeling it for kids and then fostering it for kids. And I think like, as there is hopefully a course correction in terms of phones and social media for you know, younger people, like some of that is like putting a book in their hands. And it's just, I've written picture books, middle grade, young adult, you know, all the way to adult. And so I've spent a lot of time with little kids, you know, in between kids and teens, and the kids who are reading are all right. Like the kids, you know, there is, and whether it's graphic novels, whether it's picture books, whether they're reading things that are younger, like in the same way that there's like no guilty pleasures, you know, if you want to watch a video on painting, if you want to like let kids read, you know, what they want. And, but it really, like, I do think, you know, not to be Pollyannish about it, but that is an antidote to a lot of the technology problems. But again, you're all in a bookstore on an evening, so you're probably the same page.
I just want to go back to something you were talking about earlier, because it ties in everything that we're talking about, which is the process of slowing down. And I think like when this lovely person just asked about breaking the addiction, that is a part of it that we don't educate on, that space when you put the phone down and you try to calm yourself is very difficult. We're not built for that kind of discomfort anymore because we've been in this feedback loop of avoiding it through our tech addiction. So that's a piece of education which is not sexy, but I think going to be really useful in helping people build the strength to slow down.
For sure, and I mean, you have to tip your hat to John Haidt,
Yes.
the anxious generation, and in particular to his chief of staff is this woman, Alexa Arnold. And she is the reason why they are passing things state by state by state. I mean, it's like 18 states now have said no phone. 22? 22 states now have said no phones in schools, bell to bell, no cell. I think it's the name of it. And they wrote the legislation and they're passing it in all these states. I mean, that's a huge favor you're doing to parents and even to kids, because everybody's trying to fit in and everybody's trying to belong, and nobody wants to be like the bitchy mom who's, you know, like out there with her poster saying no more cells. So when they make like the big decision for all of us, and when we all just have to obey, like that's the rule. I mean, I used to say to the girls that we didn't have Disney Channel.
Yeah.
And
I was
some
told-
babysitter.
And you survived.
And I survived. And then when I got to middle school, I had to go back and watch all the shows. So I felt like I wasn't like left out. Like I watched Hannah Montana as a kid too. I know the theme song. Look. So, like,
But I think all those that technology has, there's like, as Jonathan Hay talks about, there's a dopamine hit to those things, and there is a dopamine hit to making something or reading a book or doing slower based things, but it's a slower thing. And I also think our brains now are so into multitasking that it's almost like going to the gym. Like you almost have to, like, I didn't read, my whole life I've identified as like a massive reader and book nerd, and I love it. And then I'm a single mom of a toddler, and the last 3 years have not had as much time to read as I used to. And as I've gotten in the last 6 months to years, I've started to kind of inch my way back into it. I actually can't believe I used to be an editor. I used to read like 3 manuscripts a night, and now I'm like, I will read for 10 minutes and then I find myself reaching for my phone or being like, oh, the dishwasher, I should go unload that. And I'm just all over the place. And I have literally started setting a timer and increasing it by like 1 minute at a time. And it's like going to I'm like, I have to like build back up to being able to do that. And so I think that's something to just keep in mind with all this stuff. Like I couldn't probably right now with something new go out to the garden for an hour. I would be like, but like if there anything you can kind of build on and start in a foundational place, and with any of these kinds of things you make up.
Any final thoughts? I don't know what time it is. I have no idea.
We have time for one more, if anyone has one more, or we can save it.
Yeah.
So it's more of like a statement and not necessarily a question, but I love that like you're still like illustrating books and not using AI. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Mine was illustrated actually by somebody who's wonderful named Leo Espinoza, and I know he is a staunch, I think I'm gonna speak for everybody here, probably we're all on the same page about AI and create, like it's so important to support people who are, illustrating their own pictures, writing their own books, and independent bookstores who sell them. And I think it's very, very, very important.
Get AI to do the boring stuff like sorting, recycling. Don't take away the fun, creative jobs.
I'll end by saying that
I also want to shout out George Sweden, our illustrator George Sweden. This is the first kids book he ever has illustrated. It was his dream to illustrate a kids book. And you can probably speak more to him, but I do just want to give him some love.
amazing. He's an elementary school teacher in Connecticut, and his wife had just read Tell Me More, which is a book I wrote for adults in her book club. And he had an illustrator agent for 6 years, and he had no nibbles. And then he got an email that said Kelly Corrigan picked you, and he went and woke his wife up, and he was like. But the last thing I'll say about it, like an AI world and making is the robots haven't beat us on hands yet. Like hands are still very special and wonderful things that and
emotion as well.
Yes, and so put a little emotion and a little manual together, right? A little mind, a little manual. Together, and you get something that is fundamentally uniquely human. And I just think it's going to feel better and better and better over time to feel we're all going to feel like artisans just for writing our own sentences, but truly. So enjoy your making.